Hey everybody, Roadrunner back with another video tutorial. Today we're going to be covering the 5 biggest videography mistakes that so many people make. Before we start today's video, I just want to say that I have made every single mistake on this list, so don't feel bad, and I'm not personally attacking anybody because I've made every single mistake. Let's get started. The number 5 videography mistake that so many people make is white balance. I can honestly say that white balance is the one that I see most often. Every camera has a lot of different white balance presets. You can easily go into these by going to the menu, or most cameras just have a white balance button on the side. What I do is I set my camera to a specific white balance, whether it be tungsten, sunny, shady, cloudy, and not only do I set the camera to a specific preset, but I also use a clapboard. On the back, I have a piece of paper taped. So with the piece of paper, I actually put that up and I can use the dropper tool in Premiere Pro to get a more accurate white balance. The number 4 videography mistake I see so many people make, and I even made this earlier this year. I was at a shoot outside in Detroit and I accidentally left my ISO to auto. So when I did this cool tilt of the building, you could see the ISO changed. My shot got progressively lighter as I was completing my move. So seriously, just take some time, get familiar with the ISO settings. Honestly, if you're just starting out, using auto ISO is totally okay. You just don't want to rely on it too heavily. The number 3 biggest video mistake I see, and this one has to do more with video editing, it's using the same transition over and over and over again. So it's okay to use cross dissolves if you're doing like kind of a lighthearted story or you're using pictures and it seems to kind of go with the story. Please do not use the cross dissolve every single shot. I know when I first started out, I felt like I needed to do a cool transition between everything, but sometimes with the story, hard cuts are totally fine. Like you see it in vlogs all the time. And to be honest with you, another one that I see a lot of is this zoom in and zoom out transition. Sometimes I come across a video and it's totally distracting. Zoom in every shot, zoom out the next shot, zoom in the next shot. It's cool a few times, but after you see it like 2 or 3 times, that's when it becomes noticeable. I would say if you're going to use a transition between each shot, I would definitely say use a different transition. And if it doesn't really help your story, I would say avoid using it. And that brings me to my number 2 videography mistake, and that is when I see people have the autofocus. Some cameras are better with their autofocus than others. Personally, I'm a Canon person and I've never had any issues with their autofocus. Now, there's a difference between doing a rack focus for a cool shot and just having your autofocus on and it focuses on the wrong thing. So again, if you're starting out in video, going along the same thing with the auto ISO, do not rely on it. You can even set something to a specific focal length with the autofocus and then switch your camera to manual and it will lock in on that. And before we get to the last videography mistake, if you're liking this video, feel free to subscribe and hit the little bell icon to get notified when I post a new video. Thank you. And lastly, my number 1 biggest videography mistake that I see all too often is, drumroll please, shaky footage. I know this is kind of a cinematic style that you see in a lot of things with mockumentaries, and there's definitely a time for having shaky footage, or if you're doing a documentary and there's a lot going on and you really don't have the time to set up a stationary shot and you're kind of moving with the scene, that's totally fine. Sometimes I see footage and it is just absolutely way too shaky. A lot of cameras do have a built-in stabilizer and that does the job okay. However, I would definitely recommend picking up something like this. You can find one of these stabilizers on Amazon for super cheap. I will leave a link in the description below and you can check those out. But honestly, having one of these has saved my butt on so many occasions, and really, there are so many cheap stabilizers out there that it's silly not to just spend 30 bucks or 20 bucks or 40 bucks just to pick one up, because the quality of your videos will look so much better if your footage is much more stable. And kind of going along with this, sometimes it's okay if the footage is slightly shaky to put a warp stabilizer on it like I do in Premiere Pro. However, I would definitely not turn the smoothness up all the way. It works for some shots, other shots, it looks really, really bad. Now, most people won't see this kind of thing and know exactly that that's what it is, but it's something that a lot of more experienced people will see that and it just looks really distracting. I mean, sometimes I'll see a video and that just bothers me and I can't focus on what's going on because the warp is just like wobbling so much. I would recommend picking up at least a cheap tripod if you're on a budget. And this is definitely gonna help you out so much because not only can you just have a stable shot of it just standing there, But you can also close the legs together and it kind of creates this monopod where you can get some movement to your video while also keeping it relatively smooth. Highly recommend that, and I have some links in the description below that also have one of the tripods that I use. I lied. I don't have 5 tips, I actually have 6. So here's a bonus tip. Get some variation of shots. Sometimes I watch a video and I see the same exact shot or a very similar shot over and over and over and over again. Sometimes I'll even see like wide shot, wide shot, wide shot, and it's just not very captivating. So I would definitely recommend having a juxtaposition of wide shots to medium shots to close-up shots to extreme close-ups. I mean, there's so many options out there. Really get creative when you have the camera in your hands, because that is really the foundation of what your video is and how good it's going to be. And yeah, you have so many options when it comes to editing video, but if your footage isn't great and there's no variation of shots, your video's just not gonna be that captivating. So definitely take an extra few seconds when you're out at a shoot and just kind of look at different ways to shoot something or different variations of shots. I mean, seriously, I sometimes will even look at videos similar to what I plan on doing, and I kind of take screen grabs on my computer so I can kind of keep those in my mind of having like a storyboard heading to a shoot and knowing exactly what I'm looking for and how I can change things up. This is where the creativity really starts. And that wraps up today's video. Feel free to comment down below what you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks so much. Take it easy.